Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I'm going to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you by the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. Now, a week ago, we were concerned about Hurricane Zeta, which came through the Gulf of Mexico and targeted North Carolina from the west, like so many other systems had done. The big question I had was, what was the precipitation pattern going to look like? So I want to revisit this. Over here on the right, I showed you the European models forecast. Again, this was for last week, and over here on the left is the GFS, and it's always very good to go back and do some evaluation of this. We noticed that the European kept a much broader sector here that was relatively dry, where we saw precipitation amounts generally less than a half of inch, with the heaviest rainfall coming right through the Appalachian Mountains. The GFS, by the way, extended that wetter weather farther to the east, as you can see here. And as a result, we just need to go back and see which model really picked up on this precipitation pattern the best. So this is what happened. That's a different view, and I know it's a different color bar here. But the European probably did the best job at picking up on the axis of heaviest precipitation and this drier swath that was in through here, where those rainfall amounts were less than 3/4 of an inch. And I think it picked up on the pattern. But to be honest with you, both models, a blend of them would probably have been the best view of what the precipitation looked like over the last week. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because right now we are watching yet another tropical system develop. Over the weekend, we saw the formation of Hurricane Eta. That would make it the deepest we've ever made it into the Greek alphabet with naming hurricanes. Remember, it goes Zeta, Eta, Theta. So this is the one right here we're going to be paying close attention to. I'll bring you up to speed on that in just a moment. Other than that, the deep trough that is here over the east is what has given us those cold temperatures this morning and again tomorrow morning before that trough finally exits here out into the open Atlantic. It will be followed, as you see here, by a large ridge, and that's going to relax the temperature pattern, bring in higher pressure, and really calm things down throughout much of our next week. But there is more pattern change coming, and I want to get you first to what's going on with that hurricane, so let's talk about it here. National Hurricane Center early this morning did have this continuing to strengthen here as it moves toward Nicaragua, then into the rest of Central America. The question will be that by the time we get to this weekend, does what's left of Eta come back out here toward the Yucatan Peninsula or toward Cuba? And what happens if it does get into this area? Because historically, what we know about tropical cyclones this time of year in that part of the world, they tend to move to the north. Now, what we've got in the background here is what the European model is currently forecasting. And what I want you just to see is look at the shading. We can see that the models, once we get this system out here by, 7 days from now, this will be early next week, that the potential for it to move farther to the north here, and then, like we had seen other systems do, come in from the west or possibly hang out here along the coast, that is all right now in the realm of possibility, okay? At this point, it would be unwise for me to tell you much more, simply because it would be speculation, given that this is still 7 to 10 days away from really doing what it could possibly do. So we're going to put a question mark on it, and we're going to leave it right there. All right? We'll watch it all week, and I'll report back to you next Monday morning. From this point forward, I want to do a quick recap of October, because what you've got here is the global average temperature anomalies for the month of October. A couple of things to point out. It was the southwest and the southeast that were warm, but the central part of North America was probably the coldest spot, especially in the northern hemisphere, that we had in the month of October. I do want to point out a couple of other areas. The Black Sea region, we grow a lot of wheat here, of course. Very, very warm, although also very, very dry. And lastly, come up here to the Arctic. This particular region right now has got the lowest sea ice extent we've ever measured. We measure sea ice by satellite going back to 1979. So we have surpassed the minimum set in 2012. Now, what's the implications of this? Well, oftentimes the interaction between the cooler water and the ice-covered water here in the Arctic coming through the Chukchi Sea into the Bering Sea near the Aleutian Islands ultimately governs how strong of an Aleutian low we can get. And remember, all of that is upstream of the Carolinas, which means this governs the flow of the atmosphere in the upstream direction. The other thing to think about is what this might do to the transfer of heat through the troposphere and into the stratosphere, and that will ultimately affect the polar vortex. Now, I've been watching the polar vortex right now through this part of the year. There's no early season indications of a disruption, but it's just something we have to start watching, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. Here's another way of looking at those temperatures. October 1st through the 31st, average temperature ranks by climate district. You can see that as you go to the east across North Carolina, we were warmer and warmer. In fact, that was one of the only spots in the country, here and here, where things were warm. Back into the Central Plains, getting into the Canadian prairies, very, very cold there, making it a top 5 coldest October on record due to some of the colder outbreaks that came sneaking through that part of the United States. But for us today, it's going to be us that are dealing with the cold weather. So to show you what's happening here, this map looks at the extent of temperatures below 32 degrees Fahrenheit that we've had through the end of October. So note that you see gray has already had a frost. Anywhere that's seen white has not. We're about to change that up for this area. Let me show you what I mean. Here is the all hazards weather map for this morning. In that dark shade of color you see here, this is all freeze warning. That means our temperatures are going to stay below 32 degrees for several hours, or we might get down to that 28 degree mark, okay? So what we see here is that getting over to the western Piedmont, then eventually over toward the mountains here, this is where our greatest probability is going to be. So right there, though, is a tough forecast. Now, the other color shading you see in and around North Carolina, come down to South Carolina, this is all wind. We do have a windy day today as that deeper trough finally exits. But I want to show you what the temperatures are forecast early this morning. Now, again, these have already happened, but this was the forecast. Right there was where that dividing line was going to be for the 32 degree Fahrenheit. And what I want to show you is how things are going to evolve into tomorrow. So let's pause it for Tuesday morning. I am expecting to see some regions of patchy frost in this particular part, these two parts here of North Carolina tomorrow morning, and even down into South Carolina. But you're going to notice that from Tuesday into Wednesday, moderation occurs. Look at the west. Ready? Thursday, here it is. Friday, getting into Saturday and Sunday. We're going back over to a warmer pattern. So if we can skirt past this frost problem right now, you've now bought more time if you have a crop that's late maturing. From there, though, I want to show you the upper level pattern. There's the deep trough that we're tucked away in right now. This is the source of the windy conditions. This is the source of the cooler weather. But you see the ridge on the back side. As I play this forward, let's just take you all the way out here to middle of the week. Watch it with me one more time. I'll pause it right here by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon. Let's even go a little farther. Thursday, even into Friday. You see dominant ridging here across the east. This is our next major feature that we're going to have to talk about. It's this trough sweeping into the west, because as it does so, we see that it sets up here by early next Monday right here. Now, this is going to keep us on the warmer side of things, but this is going to really open the Gulf of Mexico up for some moisture transport and increase our chances of rainfall into next week. Not this week, but into next week. But this is certainly a warm pattern for us. And by the way, going all the way out here to next Monday morning, this is where the latest European model is trying to put, Ada at this point. So I told you there's still several days away from where this could possibly go. From there, let's just look at our next 5 days. I got the European on the right, got the GFS on the left, and you can see it as clear as I can. It is going to be a dry week overall for us. A lot of sunshine and temperatures really rebounding after the cooler start to this week. I do want to mention, though, today we are going to be dealing with those stronger winds. As you can see here, our max wind gusts today are already up here in the 30+ mile an hour range. So we're going to be dealing with some stronger winds. But after that, the rest of the week is calm. Did you notice how as I animated this through next Saturday that the color shading didn't change across North Carolina? That means today's our windy day, and after today, things are going to be much more pleasant throughout the rest of this week. So by the time we get out to next weekend, what are we watching? Well, the European ensemble says keep an eye on Ada. It says look at this trough that's sweeping through the west, but the flow is highly amplified, and that ridge, that big area of high pressure, means that we're going to keep the pattern we're going to develop this week into early next week as well. But with one exception, a bit of a changeover in the transport of moisture. You see, as we look out here from day 7 through 10, that gets us all the way out to the evening of the 11th of November, okay? You can start to see that the models are picking up on increased chances of precipitation, more so in the GFS than the European. But we'll also be able to talk quite a bit more about this once we get out that far. Now, you might be asking, why is the GFS doing it and the European isn't? Well, the GFS wants to take Ada quickly here and bring the northern edge of the moisture right here along the east coast. And that's what's going to be the source for this. The European model slows Ada way down and leaves it here, and therefore doesn't have the same advection of moisture teaming up with other features in the tropics to bring that into North Carolina. So still, all the way out to day 10, we're not picking up on a lot of heavy precip. Now let me show you what's going on here. We're going to start this on Monday morning. You can see the tight spacing of the contour lines. Those are called isobars. And you can see how close we are to the snow here as you get up just into parts of, the mountains in Virginia, then of course into Pennsylvania, New York. So strong winds in through here today. But you keep an eye on this high pressure cell. As I play this forward, I just went all the way out to Wednesday morning. High pressure dominates, clearing out the skies. It moves just right here over the mid-Atlantic through the middle of the week. And I'm telling you, the winds are going to really calm down. See the large spacing in the isobars? Your midweek winds are really quite calm. Getting toward the end of the week, there could possibly be some moisture transport, bringing in some clouds, maybe a scattered shower or thunderstorm. I don't know, but possibly in here along coastal North Carolina. But this is Thursday afternoon and evening, getting now into Friday morning, Friday afternoon and evening, and even working our way into the weekend. Still, it's not much to talk about. The change happens when the deep trough comes in. Look at the low that it's going to possibly be pushing here into maybe North Dakota or Manitoba. At that point, we're all the way out now to next Sunday night, getting into Monday morning. That's where the models are currently putting Ada. Powerful, but still sitting there. And then as we go from Monday into next Tuesday, that's when that transport of moisture starts to open up. And this is where we could sweep a front through middle of the next week. But again, even at this point, the models still haven't pulled Ada away from this region. So we're going to be talking about it again in next week's video. It seems to be a guarantee at this point. We'll watch it and watch it all for you. All right, what about week 2? Well, if you come over here to the European model, week 2 shows up with a wet anomaly. So does the GFS, but for 2 different reasons. Remember, the week 2 pattern showing up wet because of the deep low that comes cutting through here that moves to the east, leaving Ada somewhere over here, possibly advecting its moisture. But we look at the GFS, it's really trying to push that moisture sooner into that area. So it looks as though week 2 could be a wetter week compared to this week, but wetter than normal as well. From there, let's talk temperatures, but now go over to the high temperature side of things. What I've got for you right here is max temperatures today. We're going to be struggling to get out of the 40s into the low 50s. But as you can assume, look at the temperatures moderate. This is tomorrow, Tuesday, back towards 60. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I went quick because you saw the warm up. You know the precipitation's not coming back in. We're going to be warming back up here to the upper 60s, lower 70s as we work our way through this next week. Now from that point forward, day 5 through 10, over here from the European and the GFS, this is when the pattern becomes highly amplified. And look at the warmth we maintain in both models, getting us out here to the 12th of November. And even beyond that, the GFS is much quicker with the trough coming through, but still we linger with the warmer temperatures. The European's more reserved, leaving that trough further to the west, and that's why we keep the warmer bias going here into the middle of November. That's what the temperature pattern is shaping up like, and there's good reason to believe that the models have a good handle on this. What about longer term? Well, something that's different in the mid-November pattern is the position of the trough. You can see that it's hanging out in western Canada or along the west coast in both models. During the month of October, that trough was here where I'm putting the X. So we've pushed things back a bit to the west in the mid-November pattern. Now, why is that happening? Well, let's come back to a discussion about the MJO. The MJO spent about 45 days over in phase 4-5, then came out in October and is currently sitting right here. It's forecast to come through phase 7, but stay in phase 8-1 and 2. Now, what does all that mean? Well, historically, phase 1 favors cold weather here. That would be where the trough would sit. Phase 2 favors cold weather here. That would be where the trough slowly starts to move east. But you can see that in both of these phases, which is timing up well with the position of the jet stream, we hang on to our warmer bias as we work our way to mid-month. Beyond that, let's see what the European model combined with the GFS suggests. You see, in terms of temperatures, week 3 and week 4, we still don't see a major cool down. That cold air seems to be tucked away here in the plains of North America. But I also don't see strong precipitation signals as of yet either. So I'll tell you something, let's not focus too much on precip because the models are not really giving us too much to hang our hats on at this point moving forward. I think that temperature pattern, though, is pretty robust. So, longer range, just a reminder, because the next time we talk, I will have brand new long range update information. All of our models with their previous runs suggested that this winter, so December, January, February, was going to be dry south of that line. Also, I guess I should say warm south of it as well. So the models, if La Nina dominates, which is what they're picking up on, are going to be a warmer and drier winter for much of the southern U.S., including the Southeast and the Carolinas. But we're going to watch to see if this evolves, because the La Nina we've been watching, see it right here? It is likely going to peak in December and then wane or weaken as we go through the rest of winter. It's already down to minus 1.5 degrees Celsius. In fact, it went below that over the weekend. So I think we're reaching the peak of this La Nina. We do expect to see those trade winds cranking back up here in the near term as well, which is going to help it to strengthen. Where this is going to have an impact is going to be on South America too. Now, from last week to this week, major planting progress, which now puts them just about a week behind where they normally would be this time of year. And we do expect, when you see this forecast, for them to continue to make progress, something like this, possibly getting back toward their 5-year average once we enter the middle part of November. Why is that going to happen? Well, we see that over the next week, due to movement in the MJO, it's going to be wetter here and drier in this area. That's where we just see upward motion and sinking motion. So what do we see here for the next week? It's going to be wetter in this area and drier in parts of southern Mato Grosso do Sul, Bahia, then getting down into the southern growing regions of Brazil, which I just drew a line through. So that's going to, I think, open up a window for them to even make more rapid planting progress. And then into week 2, while we dry out in northern Brazil, southern's going to be on the wetter side of things. So this is important for soybeans, corn, the safrinha corn crop, and also safrinha cotton. We're going to watch it very carefully. The last thing I want to show you was what I was watching over the weekend. It's on the other side of the planet, down in Australia, in Brisbane. Now, this radar animation, I saw some stuff coming through here that was just incredible. Several of these supercells had embedded hail cores. Can you see them here? And there's a lot of severe weather we experienced over the weekend in Australia, and I just thought it'd be an interesting way to finish up this video, because watch the video I've embedded over there on the left, widely shared among Australian media outlets. What you see there are those holes in the roof. That's from hail. The hail she shows you here outside, up to grapefruit size, just slamming into the houses, and as you can see now, landing in her living room. Now, over there on the right, that's a picture of some of the damage from above in this community here near Brisbane. And there's going to be a lot of cleanup efforts going on. So I just thought you might want to see some interesting severe weather around the world as we wrap this one up. Hey, I'll keep a close eye on Ada for you, and also the pattern as it evolves into week 2, and we'll talk about it next Monday. Have a great week. I'll talk to you then. Thank you.